Pronouns and the categories in which they may be divided. The first category is the personal pronoun, in which we have I, you, he, she, and it. We have the singular here, and then we have the demonstrative pronoun, this and that. So, and then we have the interrogative pronoun, who, which, that. You also can add whom to the interrogative category, and the relative pronouns, who, which, that, what and that, and also we can add whom to the relative pronouns. Indefinite pronouns, another, any, each, either, none, etc. There could be many indefinite pronouns. What we have mentioned here is just a handful. And adjective pronouns, this, that, any, each. So we will discuss each of these pronouns in detail. We may not get into some of the technicalities here, but we will focus only on those which are important from aptitude perspective, right? So the personal pronouns I, you, he, she, it, and then we have the demonstrative pronouns, this and that. And gradually we will discuss as to the importance and the nuances involved in each of the categories. Okay, so first we will begin with the personal pronouns. And we have the first person, we have the second person, we have the third person, and we have the singular, the plural, the singular, the plural form of these pronouns. Now we have the nominative case, and we have the objective case, and then we have the possessive case. I would explain this case in detail. For example, if I say that John slapped, let's say John slapped, and let's say John slapped Peter, right? It's a very simple sentence. Now if I have to replace, now we have used nouns here. John and Peter are the two nouns. If I have to replace John with a pronoun, the pronoun that comes to my mind is he. And let's assume that John and Peter are standing right before me, so I would replace John with he, and I would replace Peter with him, right? And if and that is how we, so what we have seen here is that we replace John with the pronoun he, we replace Peter with the pronoun him, because Peter is the object of the verb, in the sense that the action of slapping is getting transferred on Peter. So Peter would be replaced with the objective pronoun, because it is the recipient of the action, it is the object which is receiving the action. On the other hand, I am replacing John with the pronoun he, because John is the subject, or rather I would say the taker of the action, the one who takes the action, right? So basically the nominative case is actually the subject of the sentence, the taker of the action, or the subject of the sentence. I use a very simple word, the subject, and in this case we use the object, right? So whenever you do the action, you say I slapped him, but when you receive the action, you say he slapped me. So when the person takes the action, he could be I, or if it's plural, we, you, he, she, it, they. But when they receive the action, then they are written in the objective form. They becomes them, he becomes him, she becomes her, and it remains as it is. In even the case of you, we have the same form. There is not any change in the second person, either in singular or plural. In the first person, we have I becoming me, and we have we becoming our, right? So we must understand that the nominative is always the who, and the objective is always the whom, right? So for example, if I say John, and then we have John slapped Peter, you would ask me the question, who slapped? And I would say it is John who slapped, right? So when you say who slapped, the answer that you get is John. And when you say who slapped whom, right? So when you ask the question who slapped whom, you get the answer John slapped, you get the answer John slapped Peter. So we have Peter for whom, and we have John for who, right? So the objective case is always the whom, answered by the whom, and the nominative case or the subjective case is always answered by who. So later on in the discussion, we will discuss the difference between who versus whom. Many people are confused as to when to use who and when to use whom. It's a very simple rule. When the person is taking the action, then you have to use who. If the person in discussion in question is receiving the action, then you should use whom. So it is I who slapped, and it is I who slapped because you are the one who is taking the action, right? And it is I whom you met yesterday, right? So the person who met was the other guy, and it is I who was the object of the meeting. So it is I whom you met yesterday. Let's not get into the details right now because we have a separate video on who versus whom, right? So we have understood that the nominative case is the subject case, and the objective case is the objective case. That means the recipient of the action. So if you are the taker of the action, you have I, we, you, he, she, it, or they, and if you are the recipient, you have me, our, you, him, her, it, them, etc. The possessive case is quite easy, and we have this book is mine, this book is ours, that book is yours, this book is his, her. So whenever you are possessing something, so if I say this book is, and if I say this book is John's, right? So this book is John's. That means basically I can replace John with the pronoun his. This book is his. That means John is standing right before me, and I can say this book is his, or this book is hers, right? Or this book is theirs, or this book is mine, or this book is ours, right? So the possessive case is quite simple and straightforward. It is only in the nominative case that we have difficulty, particularly when we have to understand the difference between who and whom. And once we have understood the difference between who and whom, we can get a better clarity on the nominative and the objective case. In the next slide, we will see some of the other pronouns.